Hi, welcome to another edition of Business Bites. My name is David Tighe, the Managing Director of Bauer Media here in Northern Ireland. And each week we take a look at some of the leading lights in business and we try and gain some insight and some understanding of what's going on in the business world. This week I'm really pleased to welcome Donal Laverty, the consulting partner of Baker Tilley Mooney Moore, to the show. Donal, you're very welcome to Business Bites.
Hi, David. So Baker Tilley Mooney Moore is the Northern Ireland independent member of the Baker Tilley International Global Network. So Baker Tilley International is a global advisory and accountancy network. So we are the local members here, an independent firm in Northern Ireland, and we would provide a range of professional services across accountancy, audit, assurance, tax. But we also then provide other services in the advisory sphere, particularly around consultancy, change management, HR advisory, and restructuring and insolvency.
So, to coin a phrase, you're at the sharp end, really, of everything that's going on, both in the past and potentially into the future as well. So, let's just take a look, perhaps, for the purpose of this conversation, at ways of working. It's on a lot of people's minds now. Whatever size your business. What do you think we've learned from the last 12 months in terms of what we're going to potentially lose and potentially what we're going to do that might be different into the future? It's a big question.
Yeah, no, it's the theme at the moment, that's for sure. And I suppose most of my work over the last 20, 25 years has been around organization change and supporting organizations to adapt into a changing environment, and that requires an organization to really understand their environment and to understand critical aspects of that. And I suppose a quote we've been using recently in some of our work is that it's a quote from John Coates, who's a neuroscientist in Cambridge, and he talks about that COVID was both an accelerant and a stress test. And history shows us that some shocks knock us onto a different path. And the pandemic has the impact of changing fundamentally many operating models. It's fundamentally changing how organizations have adapted into their environment. And I think when we look at how organizations organize themselves and the future of work, we really are beginning to see that how and where work gets done and what types of work are going to happen are fundamentally changing. So the COVID pandemic really has accelerated that whole dimension of how organizations are ready for major transformation. And I'm not just talking about digital transformation. We're talking now about how we as a society are entering the fifth industrial revolution, which is all about automation. And the pace and scale of that change is 500 times faster, with 300 times the impact of the first industrial revolution. So we're truly living in an age of continuous disruption. And the past year has taught us that the organizations that will be the successful ones are the ones who have the most effective structure, operating model, and resourcing and financial model that leans into an environment that is fundamentally resilient to change.
Wow. I think we better get our seatbelts on and strap ourselves in because it seems like it's going to be quite a ride over the next few years. I mean, there are so many areas we could talk about. I suppose we've got the technology thing, which you talked about. We've got the actual human aspect of it. And within the human aspect of change, we've also got the generational aspect of the workplace right now. So certainly I found when you look and speak to people that different generations seem to have different views on where this is all going and how this has all happened. Do you find the same?
Yeah, I believe so. And I think if you even take a very fundamental issue that's happening just at the moment in terms of the debate of vaccination and to vaccinate or not, in terms of attitudes across this age spectrum to that piece, and in terms of people's attitude to risk, there are fundamental differences across the generations. And here in Northern Ireland, we are fundamentally working in a multi-generational workforce. And as of 2021, there were 4, sometimes 5 generations active in that workplace. So that presents fundamental challenges in terms of cultural expectations, different communication styles, and how employers adapt to that. Because with the skills deficit, with changing demographics, less young people coming through, the older generations need to be held on to in terms of the skill set and the experience that they have. So what COVID has actually done is actually hasten new organizational models. So what you're finding is that there's an increasing and more collaborative approach to how organizations deliver services. Teams are emerging as the core point in terms of how organizations organize themselves. And out of that then is coming a whole new aspects of culture that 5-10 years ago wouldn't have happened, in terms of sustainability, in terms of expectations of how employers behave. So we're seeing an increase in terms of, from a legislative point of view, we're seeing an increase in terms of employees calling out their employers, not only in relation to just usual business practice, but also, for example, job coronavirus job retention scheme. You'll see a lot of pressure from younger generation in terms of expectations, in terms of the type of employer that they want to. So it's a speak up culture, and it's very much employers have to listen to that. So there's very much a need for employers to review policies and ensure that they are both a welcoming organization for people to come back to. And certainly as we come out of COVID and with a new kind of hybrid model of working, you'll see that it's the younger generations who have perhaps suffered most in terms of creativity, innovation, loneliness, and those are the people who want to get back into the workplace most. So I think in a survey quite recently, it's up to 75 to 80% of younger generations are the people who want to be back into the workplace again.
Yeah, and I suppose absolutely right. And certainly from my readings and research, that what you're saying is absolutely correct. And I think that the other question is that human beings have always said that they're never going to do this again, and they're always going to do that. But yet, as soon as things change, they tend to go back and make the same mistakes. Do you think that do you think this is a temporary situation, or do you think that the things that have bumped us into the way that we're operating now are going to remain post this COVID period?
I personally think that we are going to see fundamental changes, because I think there are some fundamental changes in human behavior that COVID have identified and exposed. And one of the big things around that have been, and it's talked about this loss and cost of confidence. So people have retreated into their homes because that's what they have been told to do. So there has been a behavioral shift, and suddenly the future is very unknowable. Plan B doesn't exist anymore. We all have to stick to plan A. There's very much a preoccupation with health beyond anything that we've seen before. And home is often the place where people feel safest. So there are implications there for how organizations bring people back. And certainly in the work that we do with organizations, we're encouraging, the extreme nature of the pandemic has opened up a wide spectrum of insight. And if these aren't captured and communicated and amplified, if organizations don't reflect on what happened to our business, what worked well, what didn't, what have we learned, if those insights are lost, we've lost a very valuable lesson. There will never be another, well, hopefully there won't be another opportunity. So it really is, before you press the go button, organizations really should be, taking a longer term view and understanding how their organization, how their business adapted into this. Because as I said earlier, we live in a period of continuous disruptive change. And how organizations' resilience, performed over the last year will give them an insight into how they will perform going forward into future challenges. Perhaps not pandemics, but we've got supply chain issues, we've got Brexit, we have got a whole raft of other issues that on their own are a significant challenge. But taken collectively, they become significant challenges to how an organisation organises itself effectively.
Donal, we'd love to talk for longer. Your contact details are coming up at the end if anyone wants to get in touch. But thank you for being our guest this week on Business Bites.
You're welcome. Thank you for the time, David.